everybody!
Hey!
Did you find out where we're going, Mrs. Moscow?
The results are in.
Drum roll, guys!
Should we show them where we're going?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hey everybody, welcome to Destination Dragons Virtual Vacation to Hawaii. I'm Mrs. Mastu. I'm going to get us started on our vacation today. So let's talk about where Hawaii is located. It's part of the United States. It became part of the United States in 1959. However, it's not actually touching the United States. So here's the United States outlined in white, and Hawaii is way over here in the Pacific Ocean. It's this chain of islands in red. Specifically, there's about 132 islands that make up Hawaii, but there are about 8 main islands that they call that you can actually visit, and we're looking at them right here. All of these islands were formed by volcanoes, so you can see that they're going to be very mountainous. There is actual active volcanoes still on some of the islands. Pretty cool. The main island is called Oahu, and it's right here in the center, and the capital of Hawaii is located here. It's called Honolulu. For every 100 people who live in Hawaii, 70 of them are found on Oahu. So most of the island's population is here. The big island, which is the biggest island, is actually called Hawaii. And that island has 2 active volcanoes. It's made up of 5. 3 of them are dormant, which means they're no longer active. 2 of them are active. If you want to go from Deerfield to Hawaii, you're looking at a 5,057-mile journey. Pretty far away. If you're flying there, it's going to be about an 11-hour direct flight. But fortunately, we have Google Earth, so we're going to be leaving DCS, and we are going to be flying across the United States to Honolulu. So we're soaring over the U.S. into the Pacific Ocean, and here we are in Hawaii. What I love about Google Earth is it lets us see the mountainous terrain, so you can see the mountains that are underneath the ocean, and you can see that all these islands, you've even got volcanoes and mountains underneath them. Pretty cool. So, zooming into Honolulu, which is on Oahu, you can see Oahu's got some green mountains areas, and then you can also see that white developed urban area. So again, this is where a lot of the population of Hawaii is from. Now, if, when you are in Hawaii, you would like to see an active volcano, you can. So on the big island, which is called Hawaii, there are 2 active volcanoes. One is called Mauna Loa, and the other is called Kilauea. Kilauea, this is a picture of it. It last erupted like pretty majorly in 2018, and it destroyed thousands of homes, thousands of miles of farmland. It was pretty destructive. What's cool about Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, which is located on the Big Island, is they actually have a virtual tour. So right now you can't go and visit because everything's shut down from the COVID crisis, but we can go online and we can visit this place. Now, I just want to show you the Big Island so you can see the volcanoes that make this up. So here we're looking at Hawaii, the Big Island, and you can see right here, Mauna Loa, it's dark, you can see it's a volcano. Pretty cool. That's one of the active ones. So right here, this is the virtual tour. And what's cool is this girl up here, she actually talks to you and takes you on this tour. You start out here in the lush green jungle, but you can enter into a lava tube, which is where the lava would flow. This lava tube is obviously not active anymore, so it's safe to walk through, but you can explore and see what it looks like. What I really think is interesting is the volcanic cliffs. These are the cliffs around Hawaii. And look at how like rugged and steep they are. They're so dark. This was the lava that has hardened and cooled. And I would love to fly there and explore this. I just love hiking and I love being outside. This is a place I'd like to go. So there's more that you can explore. If interested, you can visit Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Now, another cool thing I found while learning about Hawaii is there's this hike called Stairway to Heaven. But this hike is actually illegal, which means if you try and do it, you would get in trouble. And so let me tell you a little bit about this hike. In 1942, 1943, World War II was going on. And so the US Navy built this hidden Navy radio station way up in this mountain, deep in a valley. And the only way you could get there is by using this staircase to get to the radio station. That way the enemies couldn't find it, it was protected. But it was a pretty long journey. So they built this staircase and it goes up over a mountainous ridge and brings you down into the valley. Now, this staircase is made out of steel, but what happened is in 2015, there was this massive landslide and it actually wiped out huge portions of the staircase, so it's no longer safe. So Hawaii has shut down this staircase. You are not allowed to visit. It is guarded. But there's these people, adventurous people, and they love to go here to see beautiful sunrises and sunsets. And so what they do is they sneak in at like 3 a.m. and they sneak past the guards and climb up this staircase. Now, I want to show you what Stairway to Heaven looks like. So you can see it's pretty rugged. It's pretty steep. All right, so here we are back in Oahu, and this is the terrain that staircase is built on right here. So you can see it's mountainous, it's rugged. Now, if you were in Hawaii and you wanted to visit, but you didn't want to like get in trouble, there's another path where you go in from the back. It's like a 9.2-mile hike, but you can hike up to the Stairway to Heaven and then hike down. Apparently, and if you Google images online, the views from this area are amazing. And the sunrises, sunsets, all that is just amazing. Anyways, I am going to hand you off to Miss Dickey, who is going to be teaching you about some artists of Hawaii. Have fun.
Thank you, Mrs. Mastu, for that awesome intro. Aloha, dragons! It's Miss Dickey. I'm so glad you chose Hawaii for our final virtual field trip because I found out some amazing things. Let's get to it. I decided to call my presentation Hawaii's Adventure Artist because the common thread that I found when doing my research was that these artists either went to dangerous places, or they did some adventurous things to get their supplies for their artwork. All right, the first thing I'm going to talk to you about, excuse me, is Hawaiian featherwork. The native Hawaiians have been creating this featherwork for hundreds of years, and they made leis, cloaks, and helmets for their chiefs and people of important status in their tribes. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a video to explain this a little bit more.
Hawaiian featherwork has a very distinct quality. They were a symbol of the heavenly connection that the chiefs had, the connection to the divine. The birds that fly in the sky have that ability to connect with the ancestors and the gods. Of course, red being a very common color associated with the chiefly class, but the yellow colors, bright greens and blacks and other colors incorporated into Hawaiian featherwork really make it a very distinct art form. Red was the chief color for the elite class. Yellow also becomes very significant in Hawaiian culture because of the rarity and scarcity of that particular color and resource. The process of making Hawaiian featherwork is actually very labor intensive. It takes the farmers that go out and cultivate the materials, the fibers used to make the net backing, the people going up into the mountains to gather the feathers, and then the skilled craftsmen and artisans to actually assemble all of those materials together. The community showed their support in this way. There were different birds that were acquired that were combined together in the featherwork that connected the upland forest to the sea. So that idea of connecting space and time was visually evident in those chiefly garments.
Okay, so we just heard about how they got all the feathers, but I want to get into a little bit more of the details of how those bird catchers did this. So kahe kahe is the name of the technique used to collect the feathers. And these bird catchers would go up into the mountains. They would cut off branches and flowers from the breadfruit tree, which is where a lot of these birds would land. And they would put sticky sap all over the branch near the remaining flowers where the birds would land, and the birds would get stuck in the sap. The bird catcher would go gently take the bird off of the branch. They would pluck just 2 or 3 feathers from each bird and then clean off their claws and apply some salve to where they took the feathers from to help the birds heal faster. And they would offer a prayer asking for forgiveness for taking the feathers. The birds that they used most of them are extinct now due to disease. But the mamo bird, this one I want to talk to you about, the yellow feathers on this bird, which you can see there's not a lot of, these were the hardest ones to get. So if you had yellow feathers in your cloak, you had a higher status than someone that did not. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So the men in the tribe would collect the feathers, and when they brought them back, the women were the ones who would tie them into bundles and then apply them to the netting. The thing that I thought was so amazing was that, number one, each of these cloaks took to 500,000 feathers to create. So that would come from close to 20,000 different birds, and that the entire community came together to make these collaborative works of art. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is the Volcano School. And the reason I chose this is because I know how many of you love to include volcanoes in your artwork. So you can see the 2 photographs I have here of volcanoes from Hawaii. But photography wasn't a thing when the Volcano School existed. So the Volcano School was a group of about 14 different artists from all over the world. And they would take horses. They would ride on horseback. And this would take 2 or 3 days to complete a trip. They would hike into where the volcanoes were. The conditions were really dangerous. The air was filled with sulfur and other toxic fumes. It was hot. There was oozing lava everywhere. So they would arrive at the volcano location. They would do a quick sketch or a mini painting, and then they would get out of there and they would return to their studios and make a larger scale painting from memory. The really amazing thing is that these artists were the first ones to document visually by making paintings what these volcanoes looked like so the whole world could see them. Otherwise, no one knew what an erupting volcano looked like that wasn't near it. And the scientists even today are using these paintings to help them figure out the history of these erupting volcanoes in Hawaii. This is an example of one of the paintings by the artist Charles Furneaux. And Charles Furneaux was actually from Boston. So he painted these volcanoes for years. He was really inspired by them. And this painting, to me, it doesn't even look like it's from Earth. It almost looks like it's from another planet. Here are 2 more of the volcanoes from the Volcano School. These are by the artist Jules Tavernier. He was a French artist, and he was kind of a wild man. The reason he was in Hawaii was because he was escaping debt collectors, and he had a pretty bad temper also. But he was a very talented artist, as you can see. His pictures just look, I feel like they just capture what a erupting volcano looks like. I have a link here. If you click on it, it will bring you to the Volcano School paintings images site. So if you want to go back and take a look at that once we're done with the video, you can do that. Here is one last painting, and this is by a Japanese artist who is part of the Volcano School. And the reason I love this painting is because of that crescent moon in the background with the light reflecting off of it into the clouds, and all the lights and darks. It's just a really beautiful piece. So that's it for me. I hope everyone has an awesome summer, and I miss you. And I'm going to hand it off to Mrs. Davis. Aloha again.
Aloha, Miss Dickey. Aloha, DCS. For my part of the tour of Hawaii, I would like to look at popular Hawaiian music. Or you could think of it as how Hawaiian music became popular in the mainland United States. This is a picture of some Hawaiian troubadours in 1912, which turns out is a pretty important year for popular Hawaiian music. That is when the play The Bird of Paradise toured New York City. And it was so well received that they toured across the United States and eventually internationally. And why is this important? Well, in that play, they had authentic native Hawaiian music. And so a lot of people got to hear the awesome things happening musically on the little island of Hawaii. After this play, you'll see that ukuleles and steel string guitar become super, super popular. Hawaiian records are the top selling records. And Harry Owens writes a song that's so popular and well received that it earns an Oscar. So Harry Owens was the musical director of the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, and he had an orchestra that had Native Hawaiians in it, and they also did popular American mainland music too. So his music bridges Hawaiian Native music and popular American music. This song, Sweet Leilani, was written for his daughter as a lullaby, and it uses a lot of Hawaiian sounds.
Sweet Leilani, heavenly flower, tropic skies are jealous as they shine.
If you want to listen to more, make sure to click in the slideshow. This song is really cool. It uses that acoustic steel string guitar and this newer instrument, the ukulele. So all string instruments were pretty popular in the 18th century. String instruments make sounds from vibrating strings, and this specific instrument, the ukulele, is a fretted string instrument. Now, instruments like this already existed pretty much in every country. Guitars and lutes were everywhere. But what was happening is they were shrinking in size so that people could travel with them and play them in smaller areas. In 1879, there were 4 furniture makers on a boat coming to Hawaii from Portugal. And they had plans of selling furniture to the native Hawaiians. When they arrived, there was not a lot of demand for a nice furniture. So these cabinet makers had to find another way to make a living. And so they built instruments. And this was just one of the different instruments that they built. And this instrument is based off of a machete, a smaller Portuguese guitar. And they're really fun to play. So this, if you have a ukulele at home, I suggest you look up play-alongs because they're portable, they're little, they're light, they're soft on your fingers. You can play it.
For the last time, I have a dream. I hope it will come true. That you're here with me, and I'm here with you. I wish that we could see the sky up above. There's certainly someone to love.
It's a really fun instrument. Another thing that a lot of Hawaiian music uses is featured in this other song, and this is in their native language. Steel string guitar. So you might have noticed he was singing really high. That is called falsetto. Falsetto is really popular in Hawaiian music, and it's when a male singer goes way up high in their voice that's not in their normal singing range. Another really cool example of that is from The Descendants, and it's also in the native Hawaiian language. Over on this side, I put a bunch of letters up because in the Hawaiian language, they're not using all of the same sounds as the English language. So they have A, E, I, O, U, all of the vowels. But if you look up there, there's no D or F or G. You can go through, there's a lot of consonants that they leave out. So their singing sounds really full of vowels. I'm gonna not click this link. If you'd like to hear it, check it out in the slideshow. I'm saving, this is the last song I wanna show you. And this is also in the native Hawaiian language, which I have a couple fun phrases here if you wanna try saying them. Aloha is hello, goodbye, or like love you, see you. Mahalo noi loa, thank you very much. Malama, as in malama your ukulele, so to care for. Hanaho, encore, hanaho, imua. That's when you're making progress or you're moving forward. And then wiki wiki, as in hurry up, finish your part of the virtual field trip. So this is a popular song from Hawaii right now that I actually thought was really cool. On the left side, you'll see what they're saying in Hawaiian, and on the right is the translation to English. So I've really liked this trip. I know you're gonna love what Miss Pim is showing you next. Aloha, DCS.
Mahalo ni lua. Thank you, Miss Davis. Today I'm going to show you how I made a Hawaiian cuisine dinner. So I made pineapple chicken boats. They were delicious. First thing I did was make the sauce for my marinating my chicken. So I used soy sauce and a little bit of coconut aminos because I ran out of soy sauce. So about a half cup of that. Then I added a 1/4 cup of water. Then I used a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of ginger powder. Then I put a teaspoon of sesame oil, a little bit of frozen pineapple. So if you have pineapple juice, that works too. I like the frozen pineapple is all I had, and it adds a little bit of a sweetness. Then I put a little bit of barbecue sauce that I had. So this marinade is like a tangy, Asian almost marinade. I put a little bit of sriracha for a kick, some pepper, a little bit of salt, some coconut milk. So I used about a half cup of coconut milk. Stirred it up. Then I used the balsamic glaze just to thicken it up a little bit. That's optional. And I stirred it up some more, make sure it's all mixed in. Then I cubed my chicken. So make sure you have an adult when you're doing this and a sharp knife. I cut my chicken into about 1-inch cubes so that I could put them on kebabs later. So I used 3 chicken breasts for this recipe. Next, I added some salt to the chicken, a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder. This is just to give the chicken a little bit of a dry rub before I put it in with the marinade. So I put all my chicken in this marinating bag. You can use a Ziploc bag, you can use a container, whatever you have around, but then pour the marinade in with the chicken. So I made sure it was mixed in real nice. Then I added a rubber band and put it in the fridge for about 2 to 3 hours. You can do this up to 24 hours. The longer you marinate it, the better the flavor will be. So here you can see me slicing my pineapple. I cut it in half on both ends. So I didn't try to go down the whole thing. I did it in like quarters. So I cut my pineapple in half, and then I stuck my knife in and cut down through the stem of the pineapple, and then it split right in half. Then I took another knife, a little bit of a longer knife, and I made a rectangle in my pineapple. This was so I could start to dig out the center of the pineapple. Then I made 4 sections long ways, cut that in half, and then I started to dig out the pineapple. So I used the knife at first, and it didn't really work that well, so it's not shown in the video, but I did use a spoon to scoop out some of the pieces. Once all the pieces were scooped out, I used my spoon again to really make sure the bottom was nice and smooth and it looked nice. But save this pineapple. Then you're gonna make your rice. So I made 2 cups of water, 1 cup of rice, and I brought that to a boil, and then I simmered it for about 20 to 25 minutes until it was cooked through. So then I made pineapple fried rice. So I fried up some pineapple, I added my rice, mixed it up, and then I added some peas. You can add whatever you want to the stir fry, but I thought peas and pineapple would be a nice mix, just to have some veggies in there and some color. Then I started to make my kebabs after my chicken was marinated. So I had a cube of chicken, cube of pineapple, cube of chicken, cube of pineapple, cube of chicken, cube of pineapple, and I did that about 7 times over. You can do it whatever order you want. You could add other vegetables too. Then I decided to grill my chicken. You could do it in the oven, in a frying pan, but I thought it would be nice to grill it. I also grilled some extra pineapple. So I let my chicken and pineapple sit on the grill for about 10 to 15 minutes until it was cooked through and had some nice grill marks on there. Then the final step, plating, one of my favorite parts. You can see how the pineapple is all scooped out nicely. I added my fried rice mixture on the bottom, and then I added my chicken and pineapple on top. You don't want to overflow the boat too much, but a nice portion. This fed me, 1/2 fed me. You can share with your family too. And then I put some cilantro and green onions on top for some extra flavor and some nice bright green color. And there you have it. Pineapple chicken boats. Enjoy, guys. It was delicious. I hope you can try it. I hope you enjoyed your trip to Hawaii. And next up is my friend Miss Chase. Hi, Miss Chase.
Mahalo, Miss Pam. Thank you so much for sharing. Hi, guys. Miss Chase here. I am getting ready to share with you a little bit about kapa cloth. So kapa cloth is native to Hawaii, and it's really beautiful. It's stamped and colorful and has all sorts of patterns on it. It is made out of the wakua, or the paper mulberry tree. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. It dates back hundreds of years prior to Captain Cook's arrival in Hawaii. So it's a very, very old form of paper cloth making. Forms of kapa were created in many parts of Polynesia, and in some places it's actually called tapa. It's decorated with natural dyes like walnut dye, which is really interesting. Did you know you can make dye out of walnut? I didn't. And then it's stamped and painted, and you can see right over here on the side there are all sorts of different examples of that. It's really beautiful and colorful and super interesting. And then the cloth itself is actually worn by hula dancers when they're dancing in Hawaii. So how it's made. It's actually made by harvesting the wakua, or the paper mulberry tree. That the tree itself is actually split open and unrolled, almost like like a cinnamon bun. It's kind of crazy. And then it is pounded. It's soaked in water and then pounded with a mallet until it's flat, and then decorated with lots of different things. I didn't want to go that way. I actually want to make this smaller, and I'm going to share with you a little video about the Kappa cloth. So we're going to start this right now, and you can see a little bit of that.
You have to be some
Here we go.
that understands the idea of a journey. That all will not be revealed to you immediately.
So you can see
You
the
have to be
mulberry
humble.
is being pounded with the
And you have to be
mallet.
persistent, and you have to be physically strong and emotionally strong. It's a long process. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks. To think that you can make fabric out of the bark of a tree is amazing. That was the fabric of the Hawaiians. That was their cloth. My name is Wendy Ann Ke'aka Stitt, and I am a master quilt maker and a maker of Hawaiian kapa cloth.
So guys, I'm going to fast forward this a little bit so you
Tree,
can
or
see
paper
her
mulberry tree,
making
which is
the kappa.
used to make Hawaiian kapa.
Here she is cutting it open and
I
unrolling
get
it.
them from a grower on Kauai. There's the constant quest for perfection.
And there
It
she
can
is
feel like
soaking
silk at
it.
the end. It can also feel like burlap, but on a good day, it feels like silk. It was a communal thing that women did. They would all gather in the hale kapa, the kapa house. They would pound kapa, they would sing, they would chant, they would gossip, they would laugh. These days, when Hawaiians pass away, a piece of kapa is laid over their body in their coffin. California black walnuts makes a beautiful black-brown dye.
There she is
I
making
use
the
real
dye.
plant dyes and vegetable dyes. It's important to
And that's one of
pass
the
the tradition
stamps.
along in the way that it was supposed to be done in the beginning. I don't take shortcuts. That's probably one of the biggest things. It's not being true to the kapa. Now I say that, but then I make quilts out of kapa cloth, which nobody does.
All right, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here.
Kihei for George Kakamoko Jr., who's a friend of mine.
So she's making an
A
outfit for
Grammy
this
award-winning
artist.
Palu artist, which is slack key guitar. Oh my God!
It's happening in the middle of Santa Cruz. I can't believe it.
Mana is the living spirit in everything. Kapa has the mana of the maker in it.
I love that idea of mana, the spirit, the mana of the maker. That's really beautiful. This link for this video is in the slideshow. So if you guys would like to watch it completely, you can. I just wanted to highlight a little bit of it. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about the kapa cloth in hula. And so right here on the screen, you can see there are some hula dancers in these beautiful pink cloths that are stamped in this pink and yellow one. And so kapa is used as a dress for hula dancers, and it's really quite beautiful and goes well with the spirit of the dance. One thing you guys may not know about me is that I actually do a little dancing myself. I've been taking dance lessons for a few years now from my friend Gina, and one of the types of dances that she has taught me is called the cow, and the cow is actually a form of hula. So I am going to share a little bit of me doing the cow, not in kappa cloth, but maybe I'll make some this summer and give it a try. Who knows? So here we go. Enjoy. It's a little silly, but I tried really hard. Maybe.
All right, guys, I'm going to teach you the cow, which is a form of hula. Okay, so we're going to start real easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hands on the hips, and you jump. K-A apostrophe O. Yep. Aloha.
All right. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this little bit about kappa. And now let's say aloha to Mr. Trong. Bye-bye now.
Alrighty, thank you, Miss Chase. Aloha, everyone. I hope you guys have been enjoying your virtual field trip to Hawaii thus far. And we are going to end this virtual field trip with some hula dancing. So I hope you guys are excited for that. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get squared away. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about hula dancing. Now, usually when people think of hula dancing, they usually think of only girls and women or females hula dancing. But fun fact, men, boys, and really anybody can hula dance. Like, it's not really just for girls or women, you know. Boys and men can hula dance too, which is super awesome. All right, so what is hula? Hula dancing is a type of Hawaiian dance that can be used to tell stories through movement, such as ancient Hawaiian myths and legends, or it can be used as a way, you know, just for some nice entertainment, which is super cool. There are special hula schools that people go to study hula. Sort of like how we have some dance studios here in America where you learn jazz, contemporary, tap, ballet. Hula schools basically serve the same purpose, but just for hula dancing, which is so cool. And there are two main types of hula, which we are going to talk about. Oh, and there's a nice picture of hula dancers. All right, so let's learn about some hula dancing. All right, the first type of hula dancing that I want to talk about is called hula kahiko. And that translates to traditional or ancient dance. This is the hula you do if you want to tell stories of ancient myths and legends. It includes chanting, and it includes the musical instrument called the ipu heke, which is a type of traditional Hawaiian drum. And also, it really consists of concise. Is that the right word? Concise? Precise? It involves some really structured dancing. If that's the right word, like if you count the dancing, you can see when and where they move on the beat and everything, which is really cool. And if you look here, the first picture, the picture on top, is of a person doing hula kahiko. The second type of hula dancing is called hula auna, which is a more modern form of hula dancing. It's what you or it's what a lot of people think of when they think of hula dancing. This includes singing instead of chanting, and it includes more modern instruments such as the ukulele, guitar, sometimes the piano and drums too. And if hula kahiko is more structured, hula auna is really more flowy. You know, it's more of the type of hula dancing that most people really think of. So we're going to watch 2 videos. The first one is of hula kahiko. So let me pause the video right there. The people in the middle that were singing and playing chanting and playing those drums, those were the ipuhekes. All right, and let me pause the video right there. So as you could hear in the video, the hula dancers were chanting instead of singing. So that's one way you know that's hula kahiko. All right, let's move on to the next video of hula auna. And let me skip ahead because there's a long introduction. All right. And let me pause there for a moment. So in the video, you could hear some singing. You could hear a person singing. And you could also hear, I think it's a steel string guitar. So it's not the ipuheke. It's more modern instruments. And if you look at the dancer, you can see that she's really flowing her arms a lot more than the people or than the dancers in the other video. All right, and I'm gonna pause the video right there. And that brings us to the end of the virtual field trip of Hawaii. So I hope you guys had lots of fun on all of our virtual field trips. And we will see you all later. All right, bye everyone.